Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Here in Times Square, a ball drop is planned to celebrate America's 250th birthday. But thanks to Mayor Mamdani's emergency order denying permits during the World Cup, the public isn't invited to attend.
Say what?
So our famous communist won't allow people to come up and see and celebrate 250th years for the U.S. He needs to go.
Is this America? Is this really New York? Where we at?
I think that's really sad.
Yeah, I think that's very silly.
Oh, you'd imagine it should be allowed.
It's something we're celebrating, right? So it's supposed to be open for people to come in.
New Year's Eve, everybody's out here allowed to be here, so why can't it be then?
We have to, live our lives. Can't be afraid.
I should probably articulate that I'm a Canadian. That would never happen in Canada. The public should be allowed to go.
I think that should be something that everybody should be included on. I mean, that's a big milestone in our nation's history. Kind of frustrating because I was kind of excited to come down here for that. But, I'm not buying a ticket.
It's ridiculous. Absurd. Get out of here.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. Patrick in the chair today. Joe is at the Republican Assembly down in Pueblo doing what Joe does, which is kicking ass and taking names. And yeah, how about that cold open? How about the news that on America's 250th birthday, people can't gather in New York City because Mayor Zohran Mamdani signed an emergency order because of the World Cup that's going on around the same time in the tri-state area. And that's the thing, though, like Manhattan, where Times Square is, there are no venues for the World Cup. I don't believe the World Cup is being played in any New York City five-borough stadium area. I'm just going through it in my head real quick right now. I don't believe they are. So what's the point of doing this? What's the point of shutting down a celebration on the 250th anniversary of America? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's part of the manufactured chaos and the controlled collapse of America, right? That the New York City police basically can handle anything. And the majority of New Yorkers go along to get along for something like that, right? So it's not about the question of the manpower or delegating resources. It's about the will of wanting to hold the celebration, which obviously Mamdani has no will to do. He doesn't want that because of his open disdain for Americans, his open disdain for white Christian Americans, which is well documented, his wife's disdain for white people as well, right? Right? Quite honestly, the dude's never said anything positive about America. Have you ever heard anything positive out of his mouth about America? The answer is no. The answer's always been America's racist. We need to fix this with equity. This country has oppressed minority people for way too long. So that piece of shit is now in charge in New York City, stolen elections, and now he's showing his utter disdain for America by refusing to allow everyday New Yorkers and Americans and even immigrants that have come to America to celebrate the founding of this country 250 years later. Purposely being done to withhold patriotism, right? Communist playbook. We remove religion, remove the pride of nationalism, right? And basically supplant it with statism, right? You're gonna remove the nationalistic pride. So you take away the celebrations that unify Americans under basically American culture, which is, everyone knows America, July 4th. July 4th is a national holiday, baby. Probably my second favorite, third favorite holiday if I go through my list, right? It's freedom. And that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand what freedom is because they take it for granted every day. Even this day and age in 2026, we have less freedoms than our founding fathers had because government has encroached on us along the way. And now our government's been hijacked by communist Marxists that just want total control. So as they keep doing their march through the system, us Americans are going to have less and less liberties unless we stand up and fight for them. And that's the tough part, is that you have to fight every day, right? Like, we have to fight every day to keep what we already have. We're not fighting for more. We're trying to fight and keep what we have as an American. Our freedom to speak, our freedom to think, our freedom to organize, our freedom to practice religion, freedom to decide whether or not we want to put a toxic injection into our body. Well, those things have slowly been taken away. Mandated vaccinations. They closed down churches during COVID, but yet you could still riot and protest in the streets for BLM. Right? That wasn't by accident. They didn't care about stopping the spread for that. They knew what they were doing. They wanted that shit going on in the streets during 2020. They didn't want people organizing and coming around their faith in God, but they wanted the Marxists on the street creating as much chaos as they possibly can. And with all businesses closed, people not having to go to work, checks were coming in, and we had the Summer of Love explode all over the country. But that was by communist design. And now you have this communist running New York City, and he's saying, the country that everyone in the world wants to come to, the country that's the beacon of light and hope throughout the world, no birthday for you in New York City. No birthday for you. No birthday. We will not celebrate the oppressive, racist nation of America. And it's perfectly being done because they want to take that love of the country away from people, step by step, inch by inch. 250 years is a milestone. And we've come a long way, and we've also fallen a long way. We've kind of up and down throughout our history as America, a lot of growing pains. We're still relatively young. If you want to talk about the history of the world and the formations of government, we're still relatively young. And our system has been learned how to be hijacked. Our own laws used against us by radical leftist attorneys that beat and claw and fight to take away from us and give to others in this country. But yeah, the socialist Islamic mayor of New York is shutting down celebrations, citing the World Cup, that their resources can't handle it. No, they can. New York City always rises up. NYPD always rises up. They are able to do it. They're well-organized, well-trained professionals. But no birthday party for America on July 4th. All by design. I wonder if they're shutting down the fireworks displays too. I gotta look into that, if they're actually shutting down the fireworks displays on the rivers that Macy's puts on. Because, you know, you can't have it. You can't have people loving this country. No. We all know how toxic that is. We know how awful that is if you love this country, right? I say it every time. I lost my job because I love this country, right? So, like, we know how toxic it can be to people to hear that you love the country and why this country is great, because what it immediately does is just destroys their complete narrative on their side. And because the left, all they are is a bunch of hypocrites that create this manufactured chaos that lead to this division that's leading to the collapse of our society. That's what they are. They're hypocrites. And to show you how much of a hypocrite they are, take a look at this post that's out there. This post was put out by John D. Macari. He's a podcast host in New York City. Take a look at this. We're talking about Mamdani today. Well, New York City's Department of Racial Equity and Justice has an anti-white agenda. Oh, no way. No way. Equity means anti-white? No. Uploads. Okay. According to the fiscal year 2025 New York City Council report. Okay, so this is government documents, right? This isn't about how he feels, not like, oh, wishy-washy this, right? These are government data from New York City, okay? New York City Department of Corrections is 62.79% black, but the New York City population is only 21.93% black. Blacks are overly represented in New York City Department of Corrections. So what that means is there's a lot of correction officers that happen to be black. Whites are 8.5% of the Department of Correction officers, but make up 33% of New York City's population. So an obvious question is, will there be an effort by at Racial Justice New York to correct this with the goal of achieving equity? Right? Because like your population presented should be your population in the workforce, because that's what they all say about equity, right? So if you have 25% of so-and-so in your population, you need to have 25% of that people in leadership positions, right? So that's kind of just basically how they move through DEI and race-based hiring by basically setting quotas based on the in because what that is in education, in a lot of other fields, predominantly there's white men and white women that are in charge. And they're saying, no, we're not going to do it that way. And because these white men and women are in charge, it's not because they're white, it's because they actually had the merits and the education and the knowledge and the history and all that, right? They worked their way to a certain point and then got a position. What DEI does is it eliminates the meritocracy and just plugs people in based on race to achieve quotas. That's all it does. So what's being called out here is the lack of equity. If 8.5% of your officers are white, but 33% of your population in the city is white, how come it's not equal the way you're telling everyone it's supposed to be equal? That's why there's pushes in other different branches of the New York City hierarchy to balance out what it actually looks like demographically in these leadership tables. And I'll get into that a little bit later, because why does it matter what color the person is that's in charge? If you want diversity, does that mean all white people think the same, which means then all black people think the same, which then means all Spanish people think the same, all Asian people think the same? Because that's what you mean when you do this with equity and you talk about stacking the deck with people, with percentages of people of color in charge. You're adding diversity of what? Skin color? What does that mean? Skin color means nothing. What actually means of the crux of a person is what's inside of a person, their heart and their mind. And God, and we all know God has created each one of us individually. That gives us the ability to think freely, be a critical thinker, and choose and find our moral compass as a human being. Right? So each person, regardless of skin, has those characteristics. So when you talk about diversity, we need this percentage of black people in charge, this percentage of Hispanic people in charge. What does that mean? Honestly, what does that mean? Does that mean we just need 30% black people here? Why? 30% of black people are here. 30% of brown people are here. Does that mean all black people think the same? All brown people think the same? All white people think the same? So then you get to hash it out? Because that's what these DEI equity retards believe. So yeah, can we go back to that post? Thanks, Damon. Sorry, man. Sorry about that. So to correct this with the goal of achieving equity, the answer is no. New York City has an entire racial equity apparatus, including the New York City Mayor's Office of Equity and Racial Justice, tracking disparities across agencies. But here's the reality. They only act when disparities impact historically disadvantaged groups. So that's what equity really does, right? Equity zeroes in on the disparities of historically disadvantaged groups. So if white people are being disadvantaged right now, that's okay, that's fair game. That's the payback that equity talks about. Meaning, if a group they arbitrarily deem as historically disadvantaged are underrepresented, that is a problem. However, if any of these historically disadvantaged groups are overrepresented, New York City completely ignores it, and then equity no longer appears to be the goal. Equity is replaced with supremacy and protecting the recently created structural racism in New York City government. New York City is not actually concerned with equity. It is concerned with racial supremacy for some groups. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani and his Department of Racial Equity and Justice has a racist anti-white agenda. Looking at how the racial inequities in the Department of Corrections are being ignored exposes that. And that is 100% factual true. Because if you're really concerned about equity and the whites are being underrepresented, sorry, I added ED to it twice. If the white population is underrepresented, oh my Lord, we gotta fix this. If the white people are the underrepresented class, equity doesn't mean anything, because that means that's the payback to the white population. The pain, right? The payback that comes. Okay, equity doesn't believe that white people have civil rights. It doesn't. Equity means white people must pay for the past that we had nothing to do with. And the majority of Americans, white, black, brown, whoever, majority of Americans are not racist. This is all a facade that has been pushed down our throats for the past 10, 15 years. The majority of Americans are not racist. Americans really just are trying to just like survive. And like, oh, you're a cool person? All right, I'll talk with you. Oh, you're a shithead? All right, stay over there. And that's kind of how it is in America. But the left has built this narrative that we are just such a horrible, toxic, racist country and that white people need to pay for past sins. That's bullshit, and it's a way of dividing us. Instead of bringing us together, that America is the shining light on the hill, that everybody from no matter what country wants to come here, live here, and be born here. Because it is the land of opportunity where any person can succeed if they put the hard work in, make right choices, right? It's not easy. Life's not easy here. Are you going to have setbacks? Sure. Are people going to be assholes to you? Sure. Are you going to encounter some racist people? Sure are, of all different races. And you know what you do? You're like, yeah, you're a dickhead. You don't speak for the majority of people. Keep it pushing. I've been victim of racism. Hell, I was victim of racism at my job. I got fired because I'm a white man that said I love this country. All in the same time, while other races can say negative things about white students, and they get district promotions in front of school leaderships. Okay? All factually true, all happen. White leadership standing there laughing, ha-ha, clapping. White kids trigger me. That lady got a promotion in the district. Okay, straight up happened. I said, I love America. I butthurt Ron Garcia E. Ortiz. And then he got me fired because of what I said. His feelings must have got hurt somewhere along the line. I guess it tore apart his charade of the life he's living, because he's a guy that's preaching equity in Cherry Creek School District about white people are bad, but yet he chooses to live in a six-figure house in a predominantly white neighborhood married to a white woman. So tell me the grift isn't real. And then if you actually take out his social media, take a look what he's posting on his social media. Viva la raza, no King's protest. Someone like that is okay to be in charge of education. Okay. Because why? Because he has an anti-white agenda. He has an anti-white male agenda. And he's scared of me. He's scared of my intellectual prowess. That's why he did what he did at Cherry Creek. Prove me wrong, Ronnie boy. You're scared of my intellectual prowess. You cannot sit down and actually hash it out. And actually, when you did speak to me in there, you little chump, you did say, oh, well, people come here for the opportunities. Well, dickhead, if people come here for the opportunities, how are they systemically oppressed against? Lord knows I knew not to ask that in there, because you would have probably had a heart attack and died, and then I would have got charged by murder by Cherry Creek School District, because you're protected. But your day's coming. I know we got court May 12th. I know your ass won't be there. You're still collecting your six-figure salary. I guess you miss your boyfriend, Chris Smith, though. I know you probably miss him. But we got our hearing May 12th, which the courts I know are stacked against me. You know it too. But I ain't going nowhere, buddy. I'm going to see you one day in court, and you're going to have to sit and answer some really tough questions from my attorneys. And then you're going to have to actually show your face in public, you little coward. All of you little cowards over at Creek. Ron Garcia Ortiz, Chris Smith, Brenda Smith, Courtney Smith, Lissa Stahl, Dan Hansen, Allie Jackson, Shelby Sneebeck. All you guys are cowards. All of you are cowards. Jen Perry, coward. Omar Montgomery, coward. All of you over at Cherry Creek School District, each and every one of you. Why don't you guys go at your next school board meeting in May and speak to the community and let them know how many millions of dollars you're spending fighting my legal case and the other legal case that you're fighting on May 12th. You guys have 2 appeals hearings on May 12th at the Denver County Courthouse, 10th Circuit. How is that remotely possible if you're a school district operating in good faith? You're a school district operating in good faith. Okay, so get out in front and actually tell the community how many millions of dollars you're spending defending your practices. That you actually fired a teacher, own it publicly. And say you fired a dean because he said he's a proud American. You wrote it in the paperwork. And tell the community, yeah, we believe so much that what we were doing were right, that we actually misled him and fired him under false pretext. Because you've also admitted to that in court paperwork. So why don't you just say that publicly? You little cowards. No, you sit there, be quiet, regroup behind the heads. Okay, how many more years can we grind this guy down for? You're not going to grind me down, jerk-offs. I'm not going anywhere. Okay? God chose people for specific reasons. God chose me for this. I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. I've had a long, hard life. I'm not going to lie. Guess what? White guys can have long, hard lives. Okay, lived in a three-room apartment till I was 24, grew up on welfare, seen cars repoed, had tree branches thrown through my front window, had my apartment broken into numerous times when I was a child with my mother. Okay, didn't have a dad in my life. Actually had to stare out the window to see my dad's car getting off the highway when he would stop by my apartment for 20 minutes on his way to work every day Monday through Friday when I was a little kid, probably 5 through 7, 8 years old. I have that memory. And then he disappears for a while, comes back, disappears for a while, comes back. Okay? I got hard skin. I have a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, a lot of shit I've dealt with in my life that had hardened me for this time. And what you guys didn't bank on is my support staff I have also. I got people all around me that love me, that'll lift me up when I'm down. I got a tremendous, tremendous wife at home. My rock, my boy. I'm fighting this all for the right reasons, and you assholes aren't. That's why you're going to get exposed. And when your judgment day comes, when you got to go to the pearly gates and ask for admittance, you each individually are going to have to answer to God about your behaviors in these matters with children and staff and how you treated them when it came to expressing what they believed. And by the way, this wasn't done free willingly. I wasn't walking around saying, I love America, right? God forbid you say that in a public school that takes taxpayers' money. I didn't do any of that, right? I was just asked specifically in an intimate setting where I was encouraged to speak my truth. I was asked, how do you identify? And I'm an American that loves this country. Bah! So, Ronnie boy, we're coming for you. Not going anywhere. Qualified immunity shouldn't stand either. All of you knew you trampled on my civil rights. That's why you lied when you fired me. You all knew it. And then you thought, oh, this guy, he's an idiot. He doesn't know anybody. Well, you messed with the wrong guy. You messed with the wrong guy. That's why there's a DOJ civil rights complaint sitting on the DOJ's desk waiting for it to be signed off on to come investigate you, Cherry Creek. Because you're dirty. You know it and I know it. The left is dirty because they're hypocrites and they're liars. All those that preach equity live in six-figure houses in predominantly white majority neighborhoods. If they really believed in equity, why aren't they living in the other part of towns? It's just as good, isn't it? Yeah, you can't answer that question, Ronnie boy. We're coming, though. We're coming. I got patience, brother. I'm learning patience. I know I'm right. We all know we're right. Even leftist people that I talk to, like, yo, you can't get fired for that. I know I can't, but they did it. And they lie about it too, which makes it worse. But then you got the court system that's in your back pocket. Every judge that is taking a look at my case going forward right now is going to be a radical left judge. I'm going to have 5 judges look at my case. I have 5 radical left judges looking at my case. Right? Magistrate Judge Scott T. Valholic, absolute chump. Regina Rodriguez, a complete moron, who has openly disdain for Americans. Open disdain when you read her opinion, what she writes about me and what I should have acknowledged. Okay? And then I got the 3 hardest left liberal judges on the 10th Circuit randomly selected to my case. Yeah, 0.45%. 0.45% to pull this draw. I pulled this draw because wherever this automated assignment came from was like, woo, we can't allow this to happen. This is the slam dunk of them all. We can't allow this through. We got to give it the hardest resistance possible. So here we go. Bink, bink, bink. All 3 radical hard leftists, 3 out of 7 judges, all magically on my one panel with the slam dunk teabag case with America First Legal as my law group. Yeah, totally random. Yeah, the left's dirty. Colorado's a captured state, and you got to chip away at it one bit at a time. The federal government needs to start doing its work. Okay, the federal legislatures, right, Congress, you guys really need to start doing work about combating DEI and these corrupt federal judges across this nation. Because if you don't do anything, they're just going to take another 5, 10 years and they'll capture another 30% of the courts that left. And there's going to be nowhere for people to go to rectify wrongs. Like, it's absurd. The courts are supposed to be there to rectify wrongs regardless of political allegiance, right? But the courts don't do that anymore. What the courts do, especially if you're in the left, they place ideology over actual law. And that's how they rule. That's why we have so many offenders reoffending and innocent people being killed by violent criminals, because judges overlook and circumnavigate to what they see fit, because they actually never sit at the back end of the repercussions of the decisions they make, because they live in the haves part of society where they have security detail, security at their house. They don't have to go shopping. They have their slaves that work for them. They get their car service to work. They get their security detail that travels with them. They're untouchable. So it doesn't matter the rulings they make, because they never get affected by it. And our leaders do nothing about it. And then you get this dirtbag in New York City talking about equity, and then when you see an actual inequity against white people, it gets unaddressed because they're not a group that has been constantly disserviced, apparently. Whatever happened to everyone just being equal in this country? That's been like long gone, right? Just another way to just erode American principles, American values, right? Americans are not seen as this, right? Everyone has a social hierarchy, right? There's a power ranking structure that goes on now, America, right? Gay, black, brown, Jewish, queer, trans, drag, right? Everyone's fighting to get up on that power ranking. Meanwhile, the white Christian males down here at the bottom just constantly getting stepped on. Meanwhile, we're the ones that are paying the predominant majority of taxes in this country and receiving the fewest benefits from it. Go figure. Go figure. And then you get this retard, this mental midget, this person who doesn't deserve any type of platform. She pisses everyone off when she goes online, but I'm putting her on today because I'm rolling now, baby. Let's listen to Joy Reid and talk about her and the ignorance she continuously spreads and the hatred she continuously spreads. Play it.
They can't fix the history they did. Their ancestors made this country into a slave hell. But they can clean it up now because they got the Smithsonian. They can get rid of all the slavery stuff. They got PragerU. They can lie about the history to the children. They can't originally invent anything more than they ever were able to invent good music. We black folk gave y'all country music, hip hop, R&B, jazz, rock and roll. They couldn't even invent that, but they have to call a white man the king, because they couldn't make rock and roll. So they have to stamp the king on a man whose main song was stolen from an overweight black woman.
Okay, Joy Reid. She just is an antagonist, provoker, racist, hates white people. At the very beginning, white people can't invent anything, right? We created this slave state. Okay. Someone want to give our history lesson about the slave trade, where it originated from, how slaves were originally captured in Africa. Now, were white Europeans part of it? Sure. Where did the funding come from? Oops, who knows? Might want to put that into a grok search. You'd be surprised. But yeah, that was happening. African tribal leaders would actually partner with Europeans and actually agree to go capture their fellow African enemies at first and then sell them into slavery. And then once they captured their enemies, they started capturing their own people and selling them into slavery, right? So every group was part of this. That's how the world worked. And back in the day, everyone enslaved each other. You either a slave or you were enslaved. That's how it worked. And it took the Enlightenment. It took the English Reformation. It took the Protestant Reformation. It took the Scientific Revolution. It took the English Civil War. It took the French Revolution. It took the American Revolution, right? All those things to build to where we are today. All by who? What groups have pushed this? The idea of people being treated equally. Where did that come out of? Anyone care to tell me? Europe. White Europeans. That's where these ideas came from. And if you want to talk about that whites don't invent anything, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. Okay, quick list of about 8 or 9 things white people invented over the course of history. Ready for this? The printing press, Johann Gutenberg in Germany in the 1400s. The ability to have movable type to mass produce books to increase education. Not an important invention, that didn't exist. You know, everything always just existed on your phone, Joy, while you're sipping your Starbucks, you bitch. Then you had the light bulb where you could work in the dark, and then it actually allowed factories to be open overnight. And yeah, I know child labor, right? That's part of our growth, the industrialization of America, right? But that's an important component of American history. Indoor lighting. That's the achievement of a functioning society, that you got indoor lighting and you flush your toilet and you don't got to go outside to take a shit at 2 in the morning or a piss. But I think we should let Joy go do that. She might feel more at home anyway. You got the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell. Started with the telephone. Now we're at the cell phone, which gets everything. Cell phone, you get your messages, your emails, get on the internet, right? All that concept came from Alexander Graham Bell. Who was that? Oops, white male. You got the airplane. I'm sure she flies on private jets. I'm sure you don't want to thank the you fly on private jets, you stupid fucking bitch. You don't want to thank Wilbur and Orville Wright? Give me a break. You got the steam engine. You had the seatbelt, the assembly line. But yeah, white people don't invent anything. And we create a massive oppressive slave state where she's worth millions of dollars and can sip her on her Starbucks, fly on her private jet, play on her cell phone, sit on a podcast and talk shit about white people in the most oppressive society in the world. Joy Reid, right? This is all by design. And there are people out there that believe some of this stuff, right? The mentally ill, the 10% in this country that are mentally ill that have somehow hijacked the microphone of the Democratic Party. Where the Democratic Party is nothing what it used to look like, or maybe it is and they're just completely exposed, but either way, that Democratic Party is a complete shit show and a lost cause. They have no agenda to make America better. Only thing they can say is white people are racist, Trump has to go, and we're going to put him in jail and we're going to arrest ICE agents when we're back in power. That's their agenda when they come back into power. They'll impeach Trump, tie that shit up for 2 years, right? And then if they win the presidency, what are you going to do? What's their platform? They don't say anything publicly because we know how shitty their platform is. So they run on, I hate Republicans and America's racist. And then you get the 10% morons that are like, whoa, get their rocks off on it. And yeah, it's all going to happen here in America. It's all coming this way. It's all coming this way. So what's going on with white males in America today? What's going on with white Christian males in America today? Why do they constantly seem to be the punching bag? Well, this woman is posing a question. She's asking, what's going on with white males today? Listen to this.
Someone answer this question. What is going on with emerging adult white males between the ages of, say, 18 and 25 to 30? I ask you this because most of the clients that come to me have young adult white males between 18 and, say, 30, and they are sleeping all day, gaming all night, hiding from their parents, hiding from the world, smoking a lot of weed. They don't want to grow up. And I don't want to use inflammatory language, but I have seen so much of this in the last 18 months that I would say this is an epidemic. And I don't think it's just one thing. I think it's a complex issue. I think it has to do with the attraction of gaming and the escape of that. I think it has to do with losing faith in the world and the way it's going at the moment. And I think in some ways we all hit that 20s and we're like disillusioned with the fact that we have to grow up and like kick it into gear and take responsibility for ourselves. And maybe we don't want to do that. But why is it so much more difficult these days for this generation?
Ready for this? They're pussies. Okay, plain and simple. The 18 to 30-year-old white male are beta pussies. They are soft. Most of them probably don't come from two-parent households, or if they do, the father's a pussy. And they've been indoctrinated in the school system to believe they're a pussy and that they are to blame for all the ills of society. So when you don't have a hard male voice in your corner telling you that you're not a pussy and that you're not to blame for everything and you are a great person and you have potential to achieve great things, that's the end result of it right there. That's why we have so many white pussies in their parents' basements, jerking off all day, playing video games. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. They don't want to go on the outside. Yeah, the sun hurts my skin. The light in my eyes. Oh, I might see a girl outside. Yeah, but they can't talk to a girl because they have no balls. Because we have a whole generation of 18 to 30-year-olds that are just pussies. They're soft. because their parents raised them that way, and then the school district finished them off. That's why you see this big epidemic, playing video games, smoking weed, right? Because no one's making them do anything. If you're 18 and 30 years old and your ass is in the house all day, why? Are your parents throwing your ass out saying, go get a job, breaking your video game system, cutting off your funds? No, the parents are to blame. You're enabling the behavior, right? The softness. Oh, we don't want to push Johnny. The world, it's tough out there. No shit, the world's tough out there. You got to harden up. Because what's going to happen is these pussies, they're going to keep growing by generation. And then also what you're going to have is they're never going to become men. They're never going to understand what it's like to raise a family because they get addicted to online porn. And they don't date women. They rather check into OnlyFans, spend $100 a week, get their rocks off, play video games, and call it a day. That's what they do. Right? Very few, I guarantee, very few 18 to 30-year-olds are out there working full-time jobs, buckling it up, not bitching about it, and then going out and not crying about it at night, right? Going out, meeting people, living life. Right? But you get a majority of these 18, 30-year-olds sitting at home whacking it all day because they're soft. They've never had to grow up. No one's forced them to grow up. There's been no strong male presence in their life because the male presence has purposely been removed from society over time. That toxic masculinity. Well, this is what happens when you eliminate toxic masculinity. You get depressed 18 to 30-year-olds that don't know what they're doing in their lives and have no future, no hope, because everything they hear is, I'm racist, right? And no one instilled values or beliefs or will to push back against lies. That's the problem. So the problem is actually the parents of that generation. And you could say that majority about most people. You're a product of your environment. You're a product of your parenting. If your parents are going to allow you to lay on the couch, smoke weed all day, play video games, get a porn addiction, and not have to get a real job, no shit that's going to happen to you. And that probably didn't start when they were 18 or 30. That started when they were younger. Those kids probably started on the screen out the womb, right? It goes back to parenting. I'm a parent now. I got a 4-year-old. Parenting is hard, dude. Parenting is so tiring. And I could easily see how lazy you could get because you're tired as being a parent. Just put on the screen, put the tube on. Don't talk to the kid. Don't instill anything into the kid. Let the kid get raised on TV. Let the kid get raised on video games. And a lot of parents do that. I hate when I see it. Like, I go out to eat. Like, my kid is 4, has no screens whatsoever. We watch a little bit of TV here and there, but no screens whatsoever. We go out to dinner and we just look around and eat, and you got kids that are younger than my boy at different tables. You got kids older than my boy at different tables, and everything. These kids are on their freaking gadgets at the dinner table all the time. I'm like, this is crazy. And yeah, it takes more effort to talk to your kid, to interact with your kid, to keep them busy while the dinner's coming, and then to keep them on task, right? It's all effort and time, right? Well, guess what? You're a parent. You signed up for that when you laid down and had sex and led to the procreation of life. You give up all that time when you free willingly make that decision. And then you have to make a conscious decision going forward that what type of parent you want to be. And if you're going to be a lazy shit parent, you're going to get a lazy shit kid. End of story. Kids reap what they sow. Kids do what they see at home. It's blatantly obvious. Like, if I was laying around watching TV all day, my kid's going to learn to lay around and watch TV all day. But we don't do that in my house. We get up, we play, we make breakfast, we go about our day. Unfortunately, I have to go to work for a long time every day. My kid goes to daycare, my wife goes to work. We get home, my wife does the deal with the kid, plays with him, I'm still at work. She makes dinner, I'm still at work. They eat dinner, I'm still at work. I get home, I eat dinner, play, bedtime, bed. The TV doesn't go on, the screen doesn't go on. And then we read books before we go to bed. We don't watch videos. Now, do we have videos that my kid likes to watch? Absolutely, but it's limited. And we're trying to do this purposely because I'm not raising a pussy. My wife and me are purposely raising our kid to be alpha. My wife doesn't know that. Or she hasn't publicly admitted to that or acknowledged that, but that's what we're doing. Now, does he whine and complain still and do shit we don't like because he's for it? Yeah, but we're working on correcting all this. But kids today, 18 to 30, they're not even kids. Adults today, you could drive, you can get a license, you could chop off your nuts if you wanted to, you get a trans surgery if you wanted to, but you gotta hit this spliff, gotta play that video game, can't get that job, because you did not have principles instilled in you growing up. That's why. And the school system does no favors to these young kids either, because the school system doesn't actually push kids to be harder, because the school system just gives everyone a trophy. School system doesn't hold kids accountable. Everyone gets a trophy. Everyone's feelings are important. Everyone's feelings need to be validated. But when you get to the real world, no one gives a shit about your feelings. The real feelings, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't care. Real world doesn't give a shit about your feelings, because the real world is looking to drive an agenda down your throat, and you got to stand up against that agenda. So take a look at what the schools are doing, right? We cover it, and the schools are in my wheelhouse. You know, I hate seeing what's going on in the schools, and it's crazy how pervasive it is and how widespread it is. But take a look at Tate Public Schools in Massachusetts is holding a day of silence today to recognize the oppression that LGBTQ face. Public Schools is proud to be observing the National Day of Silence in honor of the voices of the LGBTQ plus community that have been or are being silenced. On this day, students and staff nationwide are invited to take a vow of silence for the entire day in solidarity with the queer community's own battle against silence and oppression. Taking a vow of silence can bring awareness and attention to bullying in and outside of schools, discrimination, and the rising anti-LGBTQ plus hatred in the world. Keep that up for a second. This shit is crazy. This is communist propaganda 101. If you take a look at the verbiage of this, they are shoving communism down your throat. Okay, in solidarity with the queer community. Okay, these kids are middle school kids. And do you know what happens at a day of silence? Because I've worked at schools that have days of silence. It is insane what happens. You have teachers that willfully take part in this. So you know what that means for an entire day? A teacher chooses to be silent in front of their kids during the school day. What do you think happens, or what type of learning environment that creates in a school, in a classroom, where teacher or teachers are choosing to stay silent? And notice how they don't specifically say what discrimination these groups are facing. What discrimination? Making sure girls go to girls' restrooms and boys go to boys' restrooms, taking sex books out of public schools. What exactly are they talking about, right? But they use this type of language to incite people, to mislead people, to propagandize people. And they're doing it to the young kids. And then guess what happens at the day of silence? Let me ask you this. Do you think this school contacted every child's household that says, I'm going to partake in this today? No, I doubt it. Because you know what happens? The kids go in. At least in the schools I worked at, kids go in, sign up, boom. They get an index card that they get to wear as a lanyard around there that says, I am participating in the day of silence. I will not be speaking today. And they walk around with that index card around their neck. And then some students take it a bit further and they choose to put tape over their mouths for the full day. That's what goes on in schools during the day of silence. So what type of learning environment does that create? None. But what does it do? Creates social justice warriors. Creates, once again, the illusion that this group of people are being specifically targeted and discriminated against in this country because people are standing up for their own individual rights and standing up for their daughter's rights, not to be invaded in her space of a bathroom or have herself touched while in a wrestling match. And then I guarantee those kids that sign up to do that, their parents aren't notified. So the parents are left in the dark that my kid is protesting all day at school, walking around being quiet, supposedly. Right? None of that, none of this should be allowed in the schools. So activism should be taken out of the public schools. Public school is not for activism. Public school is supposed to be for a place of education. But what it is now is a place for activism and social justice, with education, moving down the totem pole of priorities in the school system. And then here you go with another one. Take a look at Alice Deal Middle School in D.C. This school is supposedly filled with DEI and transgender propaganda. Their goal is to create a school-wide culture where diversity is demanded while promoting genital mutilation flags wave high. They want to indoctrinate your children. And that stuff is all over the place in the majority of public schools in blue cities and blue states all over this country. Completely ignoring the EO, no enforcement behind the EO from President Trump, no push coming down from our federal leaders in the legislature to ban this crap in public schools. Right? So it's just allowing the chaos to go. It allows the divide to go. Just look at that. Deal pride. You matter. Diversity is demanded. Diversity, diversity, diversity. How come no one talks about the most important diversity, which is diversity of thought? Because that's how we got where we got in America today. That's how we've gotten to where we've gotten as a society and as a world society today. Diversity of thought. Allowing different ideas and different perspectives. Because when you allow different ideas and different perspectives, eventually the best ideas and the best perspectives win in a free, open society. You don't need people coming in and then shoving this down your throat and then firing people that stand up against this stuff, or firing people that say America is great. All being done, willful ignorance by our local politicians and our federal politicians in Congress to allow this shit to continue. Because they know why? Because the money's in the problem. The money's not in the solution. So you want these problems to continuously happen, because then get the people all riled up. I stay back here, get my check. Oh, you got an NGO you're forming? All right, I'm going to send my brother your way. All right, got that NGO hookup for my brother. All while us down here on the regular folks, all our lives get turned up into the trash. My life's been in the trash for 2 years because I've lost a lot of money, pension, mental health issues, and the court system just treats me like shit because I'm a white guy claiming discrimination. Civil rights? No. No civil rights for you. No civil rights for you. And you also have politicians that talk about safety of schools. Schools are a hot button topic for safety issues, right? Because unfortunately, when you bring thousands of people together in a specific area, things happen. That's why when you go to ball games, you have security. When you go to airport, you go to security. When you go to the courthouse, there's security. Right? There's security in place for things like this. Well, schools aren't supposed to have security. Schools are supposed to be soft targets. But yet people talk about that there's all these shootings that take place at schools. Now, am I saying that hardening the schools will prevent all the shootings? No. But will it stop a decent amount? Damn right it will. I'm a former dean. I know how this shit works. Will it stop gang fights on school property? Yes, it will. Will it stop weapons being brought to school? Yes, it will. But listen to this Democratic senator, this Texas Democratic U.S. senator nominee, James Talarico, talk about police presence in schools.
So, obviously we're all concerned about school safety and recent school shootings. And that concern in some ways has been channeled unproductively toward militarizing schools and toward kind of leaning into a culture of violence and adding more law enforcement officials into campuses. And so our bill would mandate that for every one law enforcement official a school district places into a school, you have to have 4 mental health care professionals, whether that's a counselor or a social worker or a clinical psychologist.
Right.
The idea is that when students walk through the hallways of their school, they should see far more counselors than they do cops. And
that would be
I'm
good.
sure you remember growing up in school that, did you have a police officer in your school?
I don't recall seeing one.
Yeah, right. I mean, this hasn't always been an issue. And I have talked to law enforcement officials in my community, and most of them don't want to do this work. They recognize that, you know, to be in a school requires an entirely different skill set.
That's right.
Just like they would as a certified educator, they don't want me roaming the streets, right, in a cruiser, right?
Right.
You don't want that, and I don't want you in my school doing discipline.
So first off, police don't do discipline in schools. Okay, that whole interview is a crock of shit. First off, police don't do discipline in schools. Discipline is handled by teachers and school administrators. Now, if a student is non-compliant, verbally abusive, physically abusive to staff, and is committing a crime, then law enforcement can get contacted. But that doesn't happen in schools, man. Like, it doesn't. And majority of kids in schools want police there because the kids in schools know what goes on in the schools and they feel safer with the cops there. They know the drug dealers, they know the ones that have weapons, they know the gangbangers. And if this is offending you, too bad. This goes on pretty much in every public school in the country. Okay? There are gangbangers in schools, there are drug dealers in schools, there are sex traffickers in schools. And some of them are the teachers too, mind you. True story. That does happen also. But to say police should not be in schools, he's full of shit. He's an idiot. He is someone that doesn't understand what it's like on the ground in public school systems in 2026 today. Okay, I've had shootings, I've had loaded guns, I've had stabbings, I've had gang fights. You tell me school administrators want to deal with that or can deal with that? Can you tell me a school administration of 5 white liberal women can break up a gang fight? They can't. They'll be the first ones to call the cops. I've witnessed it. Who would have thought? White liberals calling the cops on students fighting? No. But yet say, no, can't have cops in here. Right? You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And police in schools, they typically have their own office that's separate from everyone else. And they typically, like, walk the perimeter of the campus a couple times a day and probably do hall sweeps in between passes. That's all they do. They're not going to classrooms, pressing up on kids. They're not searching lockers. Cops don't want that smoke either. Cops want to make sure the school's safe, so they do what they do. They act as their deterrent. They walk around, they talk to the kids, engage with the kids, introduce themselves to the kids. And for the most part, the majority of kids like having the cops there because the cops make them feel safe. Majority of the staff that work in inner city schools like having cops in the schools too because it makes them feel safe. That's just the reality of it. They're there to provide safety. And this is the best part. This is the best part, right? In education, all these gurus in education argue about you can't have a safe learning and the kids can't learn unless the learning environment is safe. Well, here is a way to make the learning environment way more safe. Partner with local law enforcement, have 2 to 4 cops patrolling middle and high school buildings. You don't need to do it at the elementary level so much, I don't believe. But the middle and high school level more frequently, yeah. The drug use happens, the fights happen, the weapons happen. Kids get hurt at that age. But don't say cops can't help. They do nothing but help at the school setting. Okay, but the left builds this false narrative. They blame the cops. It's an anti-police rhetoric. Oh, for every 1 cop you put in a school, I want 4 mental health professionals, right? Just think about the narrative this guy is trying to frame. It's so traumatic to have a cop in your building, you need 4 mental health. Meanwhile, everyone sees cops everywhere. Are they doing much? Probably not, because, you know, where you live, they're kind of told not to do nothing. But they're around, right? You see cop cars driving by, you see cops at games, you see cops in public. Why can't you have a cop at a school? Have a pair of 2 or 4. They're not walking around heavy armor, right? They're just in their regular gear, just checking in on the kids. And the majority of people will be supportive. You know who doesn't like it? The drug dealers at the school, the gangbangers at the school. The ones that are victimizing the kids and teachers, those are the people that don't want the cops in the schools. And yet the school district actually prefers to listen to those people instead of the majority of the community. The school district listens to the ones that have the stories of, yo, this cop did this to me at school. Yeah, no shit. The cop didn't just press you at school. The cop caught you with weed and you tried running from him. True story where I worked. There was an instance where I worked at Hinckley High School. We had drug dogs in the building one day. They were searching. We found drugs in a kid's backpack. Kid tried running from Aurora PD. Kid got tackled in the hallway, created a whole scene. He started screaming. We had to clear the hallway. The kid had weed, had a scale, had a torch lighter, had tar. He wasn't there to learn, but his mom comes in sure as shit yelling at us, calling us racist. We targeted her boy. We hit random classrooms, lady, with a drug-sniffing dog, and your kid was carrying this stuff on him in the school, right? So this all happened. She makes a big stink to the superintendent of Aurora Public Schools, and you know what winds up happening after that? Drug searches are pulled from APS because the mom made a big stink about it, but her kid was actually carrying and in possession of narcotics in a public school. But that gets brushed away. All happened. Witnessed it all. I got called a racist. I got accused of targeting. Ma'am, I'm doing my job. Aurora PD said they were coming in with Aurora public school safety. They were coming in to run drug searches. We popped them some random classrooms, ma'am. Doesn't matter. You don't care that your kid had weed and all this paraphernalia? It looks like he was selling, right? You don't have a scale and baggies if you're not selling. But that doesn't matter to you, ma'am. Got it. I targeted your kid. Yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that happens. But it does make the school safe. Do you want drug dealers walking around schools? I don't think so. Do you want gangbangers walking around schools with weapons on them? I don't think so. But this politician pretends like that stuff doesn't happen. It 100% happens in pretty much every school every day. Every day. It's the truth of it. And then you get education that's filled with these white liberal women, this white guilt, right? Check out this Canadian. Check out this lady from Canada talking about, just play it.
I have worked with 4- and 5-year-olds in schools who have genders that their parents don't want them to have. Parents' rights have suddenly been weaponized against trans and non-binary and two-spirit youth. Because I hear from teachers who are really worried about parents who might have complaints. And I think there's a perception that parents are heterosexual, that they're white, that they have a particular set of Christian values. I think a lot of educators feel really limited in what they can do because they're worried about the imagined parent community. And often that's the community because those parents are the loud voices in a school community. I want us to get really comfortable with challenging right-wing Christian patriarchy. I want to say things like, you can do work around sexual orientation and gender diversity with children of all ages. So I want us to think about these conversations in kindergarten. We're saying there's many ways to be a girl, there's many ways to be a boy, there's many ways to be both, there's many ways to be neither. You're going to figure out what's right for you, and we're going to follow your lead.
So, tens of thousands of years of societal norms, society, evolution, right, all that just thrown out the window by this fat piece of shit, right? But listen to this. She's saying, I work with 4- and 5-year-olds. My kid's 4, lady. There is nothing about gender identity my kid knows about. Why? Because it's bullshit and we don't talk about it in the house. So the ones that are actually coming up with this shit are the ones being programmed by your sick side on the left that are making these kids mentally handicapped at such a young age because you have mental health issues yourself. That's what's going on here. And then we as a society cave to this nonsense. Well, at least Canada is. I'm sure we'll be caving to this bullshit soon enough. Right? Do you hear that? 4 and 5. Who has a 4- and 5-year-old that goes around talking about, I got genders, I don't want to tell my parents? Like, are you crazy? why do I have a penis? Why does mom have a vagina? Like, that's the conversation at our house. So I don't know what this shit is, but these sick freaks are the ones that are indoctrinating the kids and turning these kids into sexual beings and sexually manipulating these kids at a young age. And they see these kids as that. They don't see these children as children. They see these children as sexual beings. And that's what they're doing here. They're taking their sick, twisted fantasy and projecting it onto the kid. That's all what the left does. Everything they do is projection, 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 projection. I want to examine the Christian male patriarchy. Yeah, well, take a look at it. It's worked pretty well in society for a long-ass time. And basically, the Christian society is the only society where you're allowed to freaking thrive. Try living in a full Jewish society. Let me know how it works for you. Go live in a Muslim society. Let me know how it works for you. But you want to study the Christian patriarchy, the one that actually allows you to have acceptance in their society. Holy shit. And you want to talk about the mental retards that are talking about she's in charge of the mental well-being of our children? Ungats. Ungats. The white Christian nation is the only nation that you can live in without being persecuted, you mental midget. Like, are you for real? Does she not understand that? Let her get on a plane, get airdropped in the Middle East, and see how long she survives. Let her get on a plane, go land in Israel, see how long she survives. Like, are we for real with this bullshit? And she's so dumb, she doesn't even know. But I'm so smart, right? That goes to the video we played yesterday. That goes to the exact video. She operates in lower vibration, but she thinks she's in higher vibration because she has a college degree. But yet she's the college degree idiot that's the useful idiot pushing these tools down our, pushing this shit down our throats and our kids' throats. Wow, that's the video from yesterday. And then I'm talking in higher vibration, but I'm the conspiracy theorist. Yeah, this lady's crazy. But she's not alone. How many people think 4- and 5-year-olds have different genders that they hide from their parents? The only ones that get taught, the only ones that know that stuff are taught that stuff. So it ain't outside that's teaching this. It's outside that doesn't believe in this. It's outside that doesn't want our kids being infected by this. And then here's another good ad for homeschooling. Check out this commercial.
This is why we homeschool.
I am non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. Hey, good morning, class. My name is Teacher Roby. I'm going to do a quick introduction before we get started. I am non-binary. My pronouns are they, them. For example, they are a great art teacher. They taught us how to draw a stitch. It is super important to get our pronouns right. If you do make a mistake, I will politely correct you. No worries. That goes for me too. So if I ever get your name or pronouns wrong, please correct me every single time.
Yeah. And that is why more and more parents are opting their kids out of the public school system, because you get people like that in front of your kids. My pronouns are they, them. I will politely correct you if you get my name wrong or my pronouns wrong. How about we just talk about basic grammar in the public school system? They, them means more than one person. But grammar doesn't exist in the elementary school level. Grammar doesn't exist in education anymore, because they, them can mean one person that, I don't know. You know, I wonder if these they, thems, like if your pronoun is they, them, are you paying twice the taxes too because you're counting as two people or identifying two different ways? Like, you paying double the shit on everything? Because I think you should. If you're going to make me call you they, them, you better be bucking up double they, them. Because out here in Colorado, they could sue me if I don't call them they, them. Can't wait for that to happen to me. That's definitely going to happen to me one day. That is so going to happen to me. My wife's going to hate me when this happens to me, too, because this shit is crazy. It might happen to our kid, too, because I'm teaching them right from jump that we don't give an inch with shit like this. Like, yeah, they're a girl, you call them a girl. End of story. They're a boy, you call them a boy. You can call them mentally retarded, too, if you want, buddy, but, like, yeah, we're not calling them what they want to be called because, no, it's not reality. And we're not going to give into reality. We're not going to give into fantasy land. Right? And that's the truth of it, the left and right. Like, we live in the same country, but we live in two totally different frequencies. We live on two totally different planets, but we live in the same country. It's because we see things just so differently. And the world is so warped. It's been designed, it's been done this way to create this chaos by design to lead to this collapse of our society. Like, it's quite remarkable to watch all this. And once you see things, man, you can't unsee shit. And what else I find funny now is Benny Johnson is saying Bibi needs to be banned from the White House. I didn't have that on my bingo card this week. Whoa. So I don't know what's going on. And then Melania came out to talk about the Epstein files, and Congress needs to give the people the right to talk about it. But Trump didn't know this. It's like, I have no idea chaos by design. It's fascinating to watch. And that's why a lot of times we don't comment on a lot of things on the day-to-day on the show, because you just don't know what's happening. Right? You can't actively predict. You can talk about what you think is happening, but you can't actively see all this going on and predict with accuracy what is happening or what's real and what's fake. That's why everything is designed by chaos, and that's why what we get is what we get. We walk away from this show like, wow, that was a lot of info Joe dropped on us. But at the end of the day, what's happening outside, who is anyone's guess? It's anyone's guess. No one knows where we're going on this ship. But our politicians keep dividing us. Our celebrities keep dividing us. Both sides disagree basically on everything. There's no uniformity amongst America anymore, right? Even if you love this country, you can't say this country's great because it'll offend somebody. You can't say this country is the best country ever made because it will offend somebody. So what can unify Americans here? Really nothing. The left and the commies have done a great job of doing shit to make sure it's very hard, if not impossible, to ever come back together as a cohesive unit here in America. Right? And that goes into the stolen elections, goes into the captured courts, goes into the lack of action by our congressional leaders. Right? It's all tied together. It's all tied together in a nice little bow. So speaking about congressional leaders, take a listen to Democrat Senator Ed Markey talking about what illegal immigrations need.
The Trump administration is criminalizing legal immigration, demonizing immigrants, making it harder for them and their families to navigate a broken system. Immigrants are following the rules and showing up to immigration court, but when they walk out of those hearings, they risk walking into a trap set by the Trump administration. ICE is there, waiting to arrest them and fast-track their deportation. That is unfair, and it's just plain wrong. More often than not, immigrants are being forced to defend themselves in immigration court alone. In Massachusetts, more than half of immigrants facing deportation lack legal counsel, often due to the cost of hiring a lawyer or to an actual shortage of lawyers to handle all those cases. And unlike in criminal court, immigrants lack the right to counsel in their immigration cases if they cannot afford one. There are 5-year-old children sitting in courtrooms by themselves who can't even read and are expected to explain themselves. This is not justice. This is punishment. And that's why I introduced the SHIELD Act to help ensure that immigrants can obtain legal counsel in immigration court, no matter their ability to pay. A lawyer can be the difference between a mother suffering in detention or protecting her children at home. They can be the difference between an asylum seeker returning to danger or gaining relief. Immigrants have a right to live with dignity, to seek a better life for their children, and to have their rights protected. Our nation was built by immigrants, and I will always stand with them.
Yeah, this piece of trash. Our nation was built by immigrants. Sure, they came here the right way. They assimilated to our country. They weren't given handouts. They weren't given immigration lawyers when they arrived at Ellis Island. They weren't given a damn thing. They were welcomed in. A lot of them had their names changed because those at Ellis Island didn't understand what they were saying, so they kind of just wrote down whatever, and you had a new family name, and off into America you went. And immigrants were homeless. Immigrants lived in 14, 15 to a small apartment. They pulled together and made it work, right? So yeah, if you want immigrants to do that, not give them a dime from America, sure, go for it, buddy. But no, because the reality is illegal immigration is $1 billion a year industry in America, and no one wants the grift to stop. He's talking about a 5-year-old being forced to defend himself. Yeah, well, why do we care if that parent doesn't care? And I know that sounds heartless and callous, but at the end of the day, that child's parents abandon them. And then what are we going to do? Put them into the system here where they're going to get lost and trafficked? But I can't imagine sending my kid anywhere without me or my mother or my wife going with him, his mother. Just wouldn't imagine. But the most common estimate for illegal immigration per year is around $150 billion here in America. Let me say that again. The cost of illegal immigration here in America is roughly around $150 billion a year. And that is cited, where did we cite that from? That is come from the Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR. As of their 2023 report covering data through 2022, the net cost stands at $150.7 billion per year. Can you imagine what good that could do for America if that money was delegated to the American people? If that was just given to people in a form of check or given back to the people in the form of more services, more medical services, better education system? Think about the positive changes that can be made. But it doesn't. Instead, it goes into this cycle of supporting and giving entitlements to illegal immigrants that come here and spit in the face of our law, come into this country illegally, and then expect handouts, and then are given handouts. And then when they don't have enough, claim racism, and then they get more. Because you got the Democratic Party that's playing the game here, because they want all these illegal immigrants here in America, because they're setting them up to be the next voting bloc. And also it's part of the grift, because they get kickbacks from the NGOs that they partner with to actually help these illegal immigrants, all at the expense of the taxpayer, us white Christian males, that I saw a report that for every dollar we put into tax, our return on investment is around 3 cents. Like that's the service we get paid back to us as tax-paying Americans, white Christian males. We put in $1, we get 3 cents on the return. While other groups that put in $1, they get $4, $7, $8 on their return. But we're the evil ones, because we're talking about this. And I don't hate anybody based on race. I hate people that come to our country to leech from us. That's what I hate. That's what I have a severe problem with, because life's hard. And then if you're a poor white kid, as I grew up as a poor white kid with no brakes, it's tough to see after you make it somewhere, then you get trampled on by equity, told you're a racist, lose my job, and then have other people come here because we're so racist, and then give them everything, and then not be able to connect the dots, right? It's dangerous when you just ask 2 simple questions all the time, how or why. Those are the 2 questions that will break apart any story, any fraud that our politicians and our government officials try to shove down our throats. How and why? Well, immigrants deserve to live with dignity. Sure do. They don't deserve to be here. They don't need to break our laws and come here illegally. Right, and we covered a story a couple days ago. Mississippi is looking to make illegal immigration a state crime. That's great for them. Why? Because they see the economic damage it does to their state. It costs them about $100 million a year to supplement for illegal immigrants. Medical, education, housing. It's the truth. And where's the help for us regular Americans? Where's the break in our pricing? Where's the reduction in our mortgage? Where's my free cell phone? Where's my free pair of sneakers? Where am I... Right? I don't want any of that shit, but I'm just throwing it out there just to prove a point. Us Americans don't get anything. But then if we miss a tax payment, or if we say or if we don't pay our taxes, government will come snap you up real quick because they want to make sure they get theirs. And then, you know, we played this clip earlier. We didn't play this clip earlier. We played her earlier this week, Jennifer Welch. Well, she had another great soundbite I want to bring to you guys. I thought it'd be kind of funny. So let's listen to her.
Republican Party has done such a good job propagandizing that if you need anything from the government, you're a lazy piece of shit. Yep. And you're a moocher, when really the parasites and the parasitic people in the country are the billionaires.
She is a complete moron. She is a complete moron. And no, we're not saying you're a lazy piece of shit or a moocher. We understand people have hard times, right? But have you put into the system that you're taking out from? No. If you're an illegal immigrant coming to America and taking out of the system, what good faith have you put into the system to start? None. And then when you actually look at the research that is out there, majority of illegal immigrants, whenever they make money here in America, they look ways to hide it and send it back to their families, just to skip around the taxes. So are they really here for the right things, or are they just really here to be a leech to the American society? And that's what Americans have a problem with. They're tired of the leeches, because we Americans know how hard life is. And we see how regular Americans suffering in the streets, see homelessness, see people begging, see our veterans homeless and begging. Those things can be easily handled by our government if we actually took away entitlements from illegal immigrants and given it to the people that actually deserve it first. But that's never going to happen because there's one political party that hates the American people. Actually, both parties hate the American people. That's why we're here. The hatefulness for the American people and the disdain for the American people, combined with the willful ignorance of those in charge, is why we're here. And why we keep fighting and discussing these same issues over and over again, because these issues have real simple solutions that no one wants to do. Because when you solve a problem, the grift, the divisiveness, and the money goes away. And then we're just down here as regular Americans screaming at the top of our lungs, this is so simple, fix it, fix the damn thing, but they choose not to. Because it doesn't benefit them, it would benefit us. And the moment something is done to benefit us, the American people, gotta put that wall up, baby. But take a look at this post that was just recently put out about the refugees coming into America under the Trump administration. I'll give the Trump administration credit on this. This is from Eric Doherty. Nearly 100% of the refugees America has taken in recently have been from South Africa, as white farmers face genocide and land seizures. Awesome. Of the 4,499 refugees since October 25, only 3 were from Afghanistan, meaning 496 refugees have been from South Africa coming to America. Trump said it perfectly. You do not allow them to take land. When they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them. 47 is sticking up for what's right. These people assimilate. They're real refugees, and they aren't trying to destroy our culture. That's all true. And if you're not paying attention to what's going on in South Africa, it is straight up DEI on steroids. That they kill white farmers, break into homes, take their land, because the government in South Africa has basically given carte blanche in the name of DEI that we are basically repatriating the land of South Africa to the black man. So it basically gives full reign to then go torment, kill white farmers in South Africa, that these people actually had to pack up their family and say, I'm getting the hell out of here. That's real refugee status. Not that, oh, I just don't like it here, I want to go someplace else. Right? Are Somalis being specifically targeted in Somalia and being killed? No. Is that going on in South America also to specific groups? No. Is that going on Christians? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Christians are being systemically targeted. We need to bring more Christians into this country. Whew. And I want to end the show on this clip. This is a feel-good clip. I hope you enjoyed the clips today. I hope I made you laugh. I hope I connected some dots for you. I appreciate you guys allowing me to use you as my therapy session. But I want to close out with this Chick-fil-A worker. Check this clip out.
I just picked it up and I brought it to Human Resources.
The money was inside 2 envelopes when he found it. I asked him why he didn't just keep the money for himself.
But that's not what Jesus would have done. That's not what God would have wanted.
Cintron said his faith guides his thought process.
Money is useless without character.
Kinston Police Chief Keith Goyette said it's amazing that Cintron did what he knew was right.
A lot of people will unfortunately take that money and run with it, but kudos to that employee at Chick-fil-A. Definitely deserves an award.
So what did that young man do? He found $10,000 and got it back to the owner. He didn't pocket it. He didn't sneak it. He didn't give only half of it back. He gave everything back. And when asked about it, he goes, that's not what Jesus would have done. And I want to close with that because we need to be reminded of the goodness. We need to be reminded that Jesus is here and that God is real and that he does walk amongst us. And that, yeah, evil's happening. It's not God's doing with the evil. It's the people's doing with the evil because God has given people free will and people have decided to put their own self-interest above doing what's good and what's right. I've been speaking, not on the show, but I've had numerous conversations the past couple of days with people about God and about the situation that I'm in and faith, and it's overwhelming at times. Because people I've spoken to, and I believe it too, and I've spoken about it here, that God God chooses people for the right reasons. God chooses you every day. What you do with that is up to you. I believe God chose me for the case I'm going down with Cherry Creek. I believe God chose me because DEI is at the forefront of evil in this country. And God's like, who's the most stubborn, thick-headed son of a bitch down there on earth that will stick through this, stick through the corrupt court system, stick through the corrupt district level, stick through it all until this case is heard publicly and get it on the books. Looks like God chose my name on it. I truly believe it at this point. There are too many coincidences along this way from start to finish, including me getting hired here with Joe and doing this work, to make me believe anything else other than God's hands at work. And I have to remember that, which means to remember that I need more patience. Patience has been my Achilles heel my whole life. I still need to practice it, so it makes sense why God is choosing this route for this case and for all that. It makes all perfect sense to me. So I hope it's true. I believe it's true. We're just going to have to wait and see. And with that, let's pray it out. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity today to sit in this chair and speak the message to our Untamed crew. Thank you, Lord, for my beautiful family. Thank you, Lord, for a weekend that's going to be action-packed coming up for our family. It's all good things, nothing bad, just all good things. We appreciate it. It's good to have a little break from the chaos. And I thank you for giving us these opportunities over the next couple of days to just have fun. Just thank you. Thank you, Lord, for America First Legal, because without them, there is no way I would be able to take on this battle. So thank you, Lord, as well, getting them connected with me. Just so many little miracles in this crazy 2.5 years that have been going on, Lord. Just thank you every day. I know I walk around angry and frustrated. I got to work on that. I know. But thank you for the tremendous opportunities you have provided me and the lifelines you have provided my family while we fight this battle for you down here, Lord. Hey, Grandma, Grandpa, Dad, miss you guys. Love you guys. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. Check out Joe. See what he's up to. He's down in Pueblo. Until Monday, class dismissed.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from It's our